Well, hey there. Here we are today to talk about wedding websites. We're going to go over some things to think about, some pros, some cons. Realistically, in this day and age, it is pretty common for couples to have a wedding website. It is a convenient place where you can host a whole lot of information that just practically will not fit on an invitation panel. If you are still sending out paper invitations, that's awesome. But also, we here in Canada are dealing with some postal issues, and maybe that's not the most reliable thing to do. So maybe you want a primary means of digitally communicating with your guests, or maybe you just want a backup as a failsafe or as a way to host more information than you can fit on that paper copy. And those are all great things to consider. So basically, a wedding website is a place to share information with your guests that they have access to. You can communicate about your wedding party. You can absolutely host hotel and accommodations and transportation information on there. It's great for out-of-town guests. It's also a really good place to post an itinerary so that, especially if you're hosting more than just a wedding day, maybe you're hosting a wedding weekend, those events and their details can all be posted on there. Different services have different packages, but oftentimes services are, if you're paying for a service, are limited to a 1-year term, or some have add-ons to go month to month. Every hosting service is a little bit different, or of course you could design a website from scratch and pay to host it on your own URL. That is something that I am certainly not an expert in. I would be inclined to go with a sort of out-of-the-box template where there is a service that is designed to host a wedding website specifically. And one of the reasons that I love that is because some of the wedding website templates out there are really, really functional. They have lots of features that are going to be useful to you throughout your planning. So a lot of wedding websites, and these features are changing minute by minute, day by day, but a lot of them have features that will allow you not only to host the important information about your wedding, but also to allow guests to RSVP right on the website. And then you can export that data into an Excel sheet or into a Google Sheet so that you can easily track your RSVPs and their meal choices and their allergies. A lot of them will also have the functionality to link to hotel booking pages and all kinds of transportation information. If you are booking a shuttle or a bus, guests can RSVP separately for a bus on your website. So a lot of these sites have really great functionality in terms of the guest services, but some of them even have print or digital invitation services that will coordinate with the graphics and the colors on your website template so that everything from your save the dates to your invitations to your RSVPs to sometimes even your day of stationery, depending on the functionality of the website, is really cohesive, and it really creates that unified wedding vision from the beginning to even the day of. Now, not all websites have the same functions, so it's definitely important before you commit to a website to investigate what their options are, how Canadian friendly they are if you're in Canada. Some of them have links to things like registries or even honeymoon registries that unfortunately are limited in terms of Canadian patrons just because they do things only in USD or they're not linked with Canadian stores for registries, that kind of thing. So definitely do your homework. I absolutely do have a spreadsheet with some information, but because it is so organic and constantly changing, I'm not going to link that spreadsheet here. Definitely reach out to me if you're looking for more information about specific website providers and hosts and what they offer in their packages. Now, there are absolutely tons of pros to having a wedding website. First and foremost, it can be a really green way to invite guests to your wedding. It means that depending on how you want to go about things, you don't even have to print save the dates or invitations or RSVPs. So you can save those printing costs. You can save on the environmental footprint of that. Realistically, most guests are going to put the address of the wedding and the reception in their phone anyway and use Google Maps or some kind of GPS app to find their way to the wedding, which is ultimately really a reason not to print map or direction cards. It'll also save you on the cost of stamps and potential postage strikes or labor disruptions. I mean, if you're calculating the cost of sending a save the date and an invitation and then paying for postage on an RSVP card, depending on the postage costs at the time that you're watching this and the weight of your specific envelopes and their enclosures, you could be looking at anywhere from $4 to $6 just in postage costs. So pros to having a website are that you can house all of that within the website and avoid those postage costs. It's also a really quick way to communicate with all of your guests, to put a blast of information out there. If there's a date change or a location change, or maybe there's a new hotel that's become available, that's a great way to communicate that. It's also one location that you can direct all of your guests to. As you get closer to your wedding, you may find that guests are likely to send you a billion questions. You can just say, check the website, and that answers all of the questions. As I mentioned before, it's also in some cases a really great way to collect and manage all of your RSVPs in one location. Now, of course, there are some downsides to anything technological. It may be a little bit exclusionary for any guests that are not tech savvy. Maybe you've got grandparents or great aunts and uncles that might not be as comfortable with technology. It does require time to set up and maintain. You can't just sort of magic AI it into existence. There is going to be a lot of hands-on setup at the front end that's required. And then as you go, if details change, you're going to have to maintain and update that website. There may be a potential for privacy concerns. Different sites have different privacy parameters in place. There are also going to be people who just don't check the website. They don't think to check the website. They're overstimulated. They have 18 email addresses and people contacting them in different online media. And maybe they just don't think that, hey, I should check the website for that update. There are also costs to some sites. Some sites are free. Some sites are free with the caveat that if you want the increased functionality of, for instance, collecting RSVPs, that there is an additional cost. Domain names, if you're not coordinating and purchasing your own domain name, it can be unwieldy. You get those, like www.theknot/Chris and Andy/ 2025-4-06-ABCDEFG. It can be a pretty unwieldy URL to manage. So those are some things to think about when you're looking into the functionality of different sites. Other things you'll want to think about, again, do you need it to collect your RSVPs, or are you doing paper RSVPs? What about food choices? Additional options, like maybe you want to collect song choices from your guests. Does the website allow that, or do you have to send out a paper copy of an RSVP card? You want to think about the ability to easily connect or to collect monetary gifts, maybe through the website. Certain sites like the Knot do allow you to have a honeymoon registry or something similar that will allow guests, instead of bringing a gift, to donate right online. I mentioned stationery. Some platforms will allow you to print stationery that coordinates, and you can do all of your design printing within that website. Some websites even have floor planning and seating chart capacities where you can input your guests, and within the website or within associated apps, you can set up your seating chart and you can plan where your guests are going to sit, which is a really awesome feature, especially as guest lists may change closer to the wedding, as you maybe get some RSVP no's and you add a couple of more guests, or maybe last minute you have a couple of cancellations. You can change it right on the website, and then you can assign that to your day of stationery and print your day of stationery within a few days of the wedding, and it'll be as accurate as possible. Lots of websites, most websites have the ability to add and to customize pages so that you can truly make it a representation of you and your partner. You can create pages about your love story. You can create pages about how you got engaged. You can create pages about your wedding party. You can have little bios on there of who they are and why they're important to you. I mentioned already links to hotel blocks and travel information for guests, which is something that you'll want to consider if that's important, especially if you have a lot of out-of-town guests coming in, or if you're having a destination wedding. You'll want to have a website that details all of the information about accommodations and travel for guests. Some websites have associated apps that guests can download. Some don't. Look into that and consider whether or not that's important for you. Maybe even it might be important if the website that you choose allows you to send out an email blast to all of your guests. Let's say you're planning an outdoor wedding and sadly it happens to be raining that day. You'll want to send out an email blast to all of your guests, directing them to an alternate ceremony location that's indoors because you planned for rain, because you're a smart couple. Now, some tips and tricks that you'll want to think about. You want to make sure that you start early. Invitations, if you're sending paper invitations, typically go out 8 to 12 weeks in advance. Save the dates can go up to a year in advance, but you'll want to allow some lead time to investigate websites. And then once you commit to one, to actually do that behind the scenes set up, upload your photos, create your fonts or your color scheme or whatever it is that you're customizing on the website. You'll want to proofread carefully. Me, as a very particular spelling and grammar type of human, I appreciate a well proofread website. Maybe this is a great job to get your wedding party in on. Maybe you've got an eager maid of honor or best man who's looking for something to do. Maybe the setup of the website is a great job for them. You'll also want to, if you are collecting RSVPs through your website, really set up your guest list carefully and test that RSVP function before you send it out to your guests, just to make sure that everything is working really cleanly and easily for your guests. Like I said, there are a million options out there. I am more than happy to help talk you through some of them. There are some recommendations that I can make. If you are thinking about a website and you're stuck, don't hesitate to contact me. And otherwise, good luck with all of your planning. I'll chat with you soon.